This video is what it seems. I have 10 fragrances here that I want to put on your radar for the upcoming fall season, at least if you're in the northern hemisphere. These 10 fragrances have caught my attention substantially over the past year or so since last fall. And not just because they smell good or they smell great or they could get compliments or whatever, even if they're super unique. It's really deeper than that. It goes beyond just the smell. They just have a vibe to them that honestly transcends the notes that compose them. It's really one of those inexplicable things. It's hard to put into words, but when I wear them and I'm getting the scent around me, I'm getting the bubble, it just affects me in a way that it just makes me feel like myself. So I could call these fragrances a little bit selfish. I'm just going off of my experience with them, but I guess that's any fragrance I share in a video. It's just my experience, but I think that they're special. They each have something to them that sets them apart from all the other noise out there. So I want to get them on your radar. They will be linked down in the description. Some of them you heard of, some of them you haven't. So we're going to do some exploration today. Let's dive right into it. In no order, this one is coming from a house called Memoirs of a Perfume Collector. Honestly, the name of the house is a little bit of a mouthful, but it's totally fine. It's more succinctly known as M.O.A.P.C. Yeah, this is one of their new releases from a new collection they just put out called the Midnight City series, and this one is New York, an ode to New York from this brand. And what does this smell like? Well, I did a first impressions video on it and I was impressed. I do like this. It does remind me of something in the vein of Terre d'Hermès and specifically the Parfum version, but it is in no way a dupe. I don't even know if I could easily say that it was inspired by Terre d'Hermès, but it does have this familiar, spicy, bitter woodiness. And I do believe it is vetiver, along with some other woody notes like sequoia and things like that. But there is this resinous muskiness that kind of wraps it up. It's borderline sweet, along with that bitterness, and it kind of envelops the woodiness and acts as this buffer that just softens the sharpness of the woods and gives it this alluring vibe, gives it something to it that really is a little bit intoxicating in the air. Now, I will warn you, this is a fragrance that sits pretty close to the skin. You're not going to be smelling it like crazy all around you for hours and hours and hours and hours. I was getting maybe 3 good hours of noticeability to myself, and then after that, I didn't smell it all that well, but if it's on my hand, I can smell like, yeah, it's still there. It just sits close. It is a bit of a heavier scent, but it's not too dense. I think it's so elegant. I think it's pretty unisex, maybe a bit masculine leaning, and I think it's fantastic for the fall time for an occasion that is a little bit more dressed up but not super formal. Or it could be a good work scent if you want something that smells a little bit more put together, a little bit more refined, but not your typical fougere or fresh out the shower kind of blue fragrance or anything like that. It's a little special. That is M.O.A.P.C. New York. This fragrance is still pretty new to me. I just got it within the last couple months, and I did a first impression on this one as well. This is one of the newest fragrances from Mind Games that they call Kingside. This actually surprised me a bit in my first impressions because it doesn't exactly remind me of anything else. There are some Mind Game fragrances that are pretty reminiscent to other things, not in a dupe or clone type of way, maybe an inspiration way, maybe just they used it as a foundation and they built upon it. I can't say definitively that they're trying to capitalize on these scent profiles, but you can draw some lines here and there. But this one, to me, kind of stands out. It has like an almond note. It has this rum note in there. There's this balsamic kind of sweet resinous feel. It's a little bit woody. To me, it smells like kind of a syrupy cherry cola without the fizz, without the carbonation, without the effervescence. It is sweet, it's rich, kind of creamy, and it dries in this resinous, earthy, dry, woody way that I think is fantastic for fall evenings. I've had people ask me, does it remind me of Guerlain L'Homme Ideal? Honestly, not really. I would go into this expecting something relatively different, but definitely get a sample first. It's not cheap. This stuff is very expensive, so I'll link to what I can find down in the description. But let me know if you've tried Kingside and what you think. This is one of my favorite discoveries from Xerjoff in the past year. I've only had it for a handful of months. It came out in 2024, and honestly, I haven't really seen much talk about it. Kind of surprised there's not a whole hype wave behind this because it's really good. It wears in a very easy to understand way and relatively versatile way, but it's also kind of different. Hard balance to strike. This is called Louis XV, 1722. It is a collaboration with this champagne library that I always forget the name of, but it'll be on screen, whatever the name of this champagne library in France is. And they collaborated with them and they used champagne notes. There's some bright citruses. It is kind of nutty. There's this gourmand element like maybe hazelnut or something. It's kind of creamy, warm, woody, sweet, bright, bubbly, nutty. Just a great combination of elements that both smell refined and sophisticated, but also kind of cozy and alluring in a way. It's a great day or night fragrance. I would say maybe slightly leaning more daytime. It does remind me a little bit of Ouden from the house, but maybe with more dimension, more depth, just more elements, more moving parts, maybe making it more interesting, but not necessarily making it so you'll like it more than Ouden. But that is a good starting place for a frame of reference if you want to know what this smells like. I think it's a great all year wear, but fall, it's going to do fantastic, especially on those slightly warmer days and nights. Let me know if you've tried Louis XV 1722. I felt convicted to include this fragrance because I honestly need to spend more time with it, and I think the fall season will be a great time to do that. This is from, again, a house you don't really hear much about called Plume Impression. They call this Elegance Cuiree. This is a beautiful leather fragrance, but it's so supple, so soft, regal, not super in your face, nothing brash. Elegant is the perfect word for this. You get juniper berry, you get this sharp, almost green quality that's relatively fresh. Backing that is a little bit of smoky, wispy incense that's still, again, a little on the fresher side, a little bit more transparent. And behind that is this relatively like ambery leather. And overall, this does remind me of a fragrance like Italian leather from Memo, but I'd say way more rounded edges, way less green, and honestly just more elegant. To me, this is a fantastic dressed up occasion fragrance for day or night. Has good lasting power, not too overwhelming in terms of the presence, but again, it will last in my experience. And again, I need to wear this more myself. So I'd like to know if you are familiar with this brand, if you know Plume Impression, if you're familiar with Elegance Cuiree, let everyone else know down in the comments. And if you haven't tried it, once again, link in the description. From the house of Chris Collins, this stuff blew me away in my first impressions video, and I've included it in a couple of videos ever since. And it's called Savant Manhattan Cherry. It is a fragrance created to represent the Manhattan cocktail, but it goes deeper than that. It's not just a boozy cocktail fragrance. There's this warm, spicy cinnamon, sweet, syrupy, definitely boozy whiskey, and there's this dry, earthy woodiness behind that. Again, I'm explaining the notes, I'm explaining the ingredients. And yes, you can imagine based on the name and the inspiration, yet it is supposed to smell a bit like a boozy drink. But again, it goes beyond that, and I can't really explain it. When you get it in the air around you, especially on a cool evening, and especially when you'll be a little bit more outside than inside, but even then it doesn't matter. Just don't spray too much if you're inside because it is pretty present. There's just something about this that is literally intoxicating. It will keep your attention all night and will probably get the attention of others, whether or not they say something. Savant from Chris Collins. Let me know if you've tried this one. If you haven't, get yourself a sample so you can start checking it out this fall. Another brand new fragrance to me. I did just do a first impressions video on this one as well. This is my first foray into this house. I've heard great things about them, and so far what I'm getting, everything stands up to the positive feedback from the house of Thomas de Monaco.
I don't know if I'm saying that with the right accent.
This is called Grand Beau. The brand was gracious enough to send this one, and it's good stuff. Now, one thing to keep in mind, as far as most people's expectations, this is an extrait de parfum, which does not mean it's going to be beast mode and be super noticeable. What that means is that it's pretty concentrated. It's pretty dense. In my experience, not too different from New York that I talked about earlier, wears closer to the skin. It moves slowly. It's not in a hurry to pop off of your skin, and it sits low, and it will hang out for most of the day and night, but you may not smell it very readily. So just be aware of that. If you really need to be detecting it yourself, maybe put a spray or two on your hand or your wrist or your arm or something, or even under the shirt, so you can get that personal sniff every now and then just to make sure your scent is still there if you need that assurance. But this is lovely. It's such a gentlemanly, fougere leaning fragrance. There's pine. There's a green, slightly fresh pine, but nowhere near as mentholic and just like nose clearing as pine can be, because this is, again, a more concentrated fragrance. It's heavier, it's denser, it's richer. So not necessarily a super fresh fougere. There is woods. There's a little bit of this kind of creamy coumarin-like sweetness that you get out of a fougere. I'm honestly still getting to know this. I've worn it once or twice, and it, again, wears very gentlemanly, very understated, very subdued, not gonna scream. People who get close to you hug you, whatever, they will smell it. It smells, again, very clean, sophisticated, with depth and richness. But if you're looking to make a statement, this is not the one. I'm just warning you. But let me know what you think if you've tried Grand Beau from Thomas de Monaco or any of the others. I know there's a lot of other favorites that I have samples of that I need to spray. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I did recently include this fragrance in another video, and I think this is a special one. This is one of the best that Precious Liquid has put out. This is called Sangria Oak. I didn't even know about this fragrance until before a month ago. I have seen some people compare this to Ganymede, and at first I was like, no. And then I went back, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I could kind of see it. I can kind of see the resemblance more in like this, how do I say this? Almost musky, metallic-y, woody type of texture. I don't know. I can see the resemblance, but it's not the same. The Sangria note, which is this very fruity, rich wine-like boozy presence, really makes this thing stand out. It's kind of mouth-watering. There's a nice little bit of saltiness in here, which might also be contributing to the Ganymede factor. But the oak wood here is so lovely. It's dry and it's enveloping, and as it dries on the skin, it really comes to the fore. The way I've described this scent in the previous video, in a very crude way, but hopefully a helpful way, if you can imagine African Rooibos from Chris Collins, blended with Side Effect from Initio. Not exactly just those two together, but again, a good frame of reference, a good starting point is a blend of those scents. But ultimately, it amounts to something relatively unique and special, and again, the vibe is undeniable. Let me know what you think of Sangria Oak from Precious Liquid. A great scent for the fall. I'd say day or night for almost any occasion. From Naughton & Wilson, I've just had this fragrance for maybe 5-6 months, and I have talked about it several times on the channel. This stuff, again, vibe in a bottle. Very gentlemanly, very sophisticated, maybe a little bit leaning mature. So well crafted. This is Arezzo. Arezzo, man. Arezzo. This, it reminds me a little bit of something like Raja Parfum Reckless. That's the closest parallel I could make. It is this spicy, warm, woody, slightly sweet fragrance, but here we have maybe some booziness. We have some tobacco. It's very dry. It's very strong. I actually sprayed a spray earlier today before filming in the air just to remind myself, and it lingered and it was moving into other rooms, and my wife from the other room was like, whatever you sprayed is so strong. Be mindful, be warned. These fragrances are not shy. So if you want something that wears definitely more evening, more dressed up, more mature vibes, you want to make a statement and you don't need too much of this to do so, this is a great consideration, especially for evening in the fall. That is Arezzo. Let me know what you think. I have been raving about this one all year. This fragrance has me so excited every time I wear it. I just love the vibe. Once again, I can't guarantee you'll have the same experience, but this stuff just gets me. From Acqua di Parma, we have Zafferano. Zafferano, as per the name, is a saffron-based fragrance. It is that spicy, warm, slightly leathery nuance that saffron brings, maybe with a touch of a brightness, maybe some lemon or some kind of citrus. And I get this just like sweet, rosy warmth to this scent. It makes me see a beautiful sunset filled with colors of like magenta and orange and pink. It's just like a brilliant array of color, very vivid, all while being kind of dark like this bottle. It has this like dark floral quality to it that is very masculine to me and just very alluring. I think it's a fantastic like evening fragrance when you're going to be sitting out, maybe the sun is going down, you're out on a patio or something, and you're just with friends or your loved ones or whatever, and it just works so well with that vibe. I don't know what it is about the sun going down and this fragrance, it just works. It's a great combo. Makes me feel amazing. That's Zafferano. Let me know if you're a fan. And our final fragrance is, in my opinion, one of the best Amouage has put out in the past year or two. It's one that does stand out with its scent profile. It doesn't smell exactly like a ton of other stuff. And thankfully, it's not a nuclear bomb. It is a reasonable, sensible fragrance that does have presence, that does last, but does not overwhelm. It does not rip your nose from your face like a lot of their recent fragrances have. Decision, once again from Amouage. Quentin Biche is a perfumer, and I applaud him for this fragrance. Incensey vanilla, incensey ambery vanilla. A little bit fresh, it's a little smoky, but not in a dark or fiery way. Again, resinous kind of ambery vanilla, woodiness that backs that up. There's this almost like musky sea-like vibe. I almost get this ambergris feel. I don't think ambergris is in here, but I get this slightly salty muskiness, very, very subtle, that flows through the incense, flows through the vanilla, and just makes it very interesting in the air, an intriguing and very pleasant scent to wear when you want to have a little bit more of a luxurious vibe, but nothing too serious. I could see this day or night. I could see it office wear, but maybe tone down on the sprays because it is a little bit more on the sweeter side, but by no means too sweet. It is kind of a remarkable release from the house, and I think it's a great one to consider for the fall. I think it's one that, even though it's kind of unique, you can get a lot of wear out of this. But I want to know what you think of Decision. If you've tried it, I want to know what you think of all these fragrances. If you have yet to try any of them, they will be linked in the description.